Light back up some. I still got the filter on. It's coming a pretty good little rain out there, and the shack is tin roof. Now you should have been in here before I insulated it and everything. You couldn't hear yourself
Um,
think when it rained like that.
well, luckily, the only time I was there, it wasn't raining.
Yeah, it was coming down a while ago.
Well, good evening,
All right.
everyone.
Yeah, I think we probably are live now. I don't know what the delay is on the coming in, but roll through here and see who all we got for a second.
It's your torrential rain. You should build an ark.
Yeah, I can turn the mic down some. Let's see what
No,
happens with
you're
that.
doing good right now. You're doing good right now. But yeah, everyone, welcome here. Clack is sheltered from a major thunderstorm. It sounds like so he's been tweaking his audio here. So hopefully it doesn't get too bad. It sounded like really bad static when I jumped on, but good to see everyone here. Glad you're all not watching the Super Bowl, and we'll see if we can have a good evening here. So, who all do we have? We got Chris, we got Nipa, AGT Restorer, Jeff Schultz. Good evening, everyone. Dale, Denny, Robert, Don, Jeremy, Midnight Sun Woodwork, Jack in the Shop, Super Who. Yeah, there's a lot of people. It's funny. They say it's going to be a record viewing tonight. They're expecting, and a lot of people do it. But I also feel a lot of my friends are like, nah, I stopped watching the NFL. So
Yeah, they've never really had me from the beginning, but they definitely would not have me at this point in time. Oh, they would if they were if they had ever had me, they'd have lost me a few years back.
yeah,
Oh,
I don't
but
go out of my
no.
way to watch it. I follow my
Oh,
teams, here, but I don't go out of my way to pay for it or watch it. Got other things to do. I might put it on the background if it doesn't cost me anything. But yeah.
oh, look at that. Tommy's in the house. He's a local celebrity around here where I live.
Well, welcome,
Morley,
Tommy.
Morland's fine jewelry. Yeah, he sells a lot of jewelry. I actually, that's where I got my Christmas present this year for Brandy.
Nice,
So,
nice.
yeah. And he also occasionally sends some work over here, as you've seen in the past.
Hmm?
I think the rain may have quit. Hang on.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, I can turn my audio back up for now. So if it starts getting loud again, let me know. But
Will do.
hello, Michael Keefe, North Alabama. Uh, to those those living in UCLA. Wet and chilly Tucson. Yeah, I didn't know it got that wet in Tucson, but okay.
Well,
I'll take.
I've been seeing photos from people in Arizona and Texas sharing all their snowy weather, and I'm up here
Yeah,
going, my grass is turning green. It's
yeah.
a weird winter.
Yeah, ET. That was about the same time that, if, like I said, I've never really been one to watch pro sports. I do sit and watch. I'll watch high school football and stuff like that. Maybe occasionally I might get conned into watching a college game, but I've never really liked the NFL since the '80s. I guess it was. That was kind of to me that was kind of when everything started going south. Uh, a lot of the guys that play went from being humble and trying to make a positive influence in the community to drugs and drinking and all that stuff, and it's just it just ain't for me no more.
Yeah.
Now high
Yeah.
school, these kids around here pour their heart into high school football, so I'll pay money and go watch a high school football game.
Well, we have a local. It's not even. I don't know what class or if it is even minor league baseball, but we've got a regional team here in town, and it's so fun to watch. I mean, these are just college kids that they come to town for the summer and they get on the team, and they play. They play because they want to. They're barely getting paid anything. They got to stay in like foster homes for the summer and everything. So those are the fun games to watch. Yeah, I haven't been to a professional sports game in forever. Just it's a lot of money and a lot of time. So, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the cattail in your screen.
If she was fixing to jump on my back, I know what she was fixing to do. So I went ahead and grabbed her
Yeah.
before she had the chance.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
this
a good
this
idea.
yeah, this cat, she's like nudging me now. She takes her nose and nudges you, want you to pet her. But it's hard to see. Come here.
Well,
But it,
we've got a an anniversary in the chat. Our friend
anniversary.
Brian, happy anniversary, 29 years, and she's apparently watching football, and he's watching us.
Yeah, well,
So,
hey, if it's lasted that way for 29 years, keep it up. You know, sometimes that's
yeah,
the best. That's the best way to do it. You do your thing, I do mine. Uh, so, congratulations there, Brian. I don't have
yeah. That
like I don't have. Do I have clapping? No, I don't have clapping. All I got is booze and stuff. So,
well, that's similar to kind of how we do birthdays. You know, we still have kids at home, so it's kind of like your birthday. You do what you want to do. You don't have to worry about anybody else. And I don't know. Our anniversary, we kind of this year on our anniversary, there's a solar eclipse, so the world might end. That's all I'm saying.
okay, all right then. Yeah, Victor said he's watching both. So hopefully, like I said, I don't know how bad it'll hurt us tonight, but I mean, if you know, they pay a lot more for their commercials than what we do, so I think we're good. I mean, commercial space on our show generally doesn't cost that much.
Yeah,
So
we're in the
I think we'll be
fractions of
good.
a dollar rather than millions, right?
Yeah, but we may have a halftime show that they're not going to have, so we'll see.
Oh, something you didn't tell me about.
Well, I figured maybe we could get you to like I don't know, do some dancing or singing or something like that. I mean,
No, no, I don't.
no.
I don't.
Oh
I
well, I guess
dance
not.
dancing. Boy, you don't know me.
It would be funny anyway. Let's see. Somebody's asking about the Atom Stack.
Yeah.
No, I'm not dancing tonight. Unless we get to like 400 viewers, something that I know won't happen. Oh, somebody's calling us out. You had the whole Brady Bunch thing going on.
Yeah.
Uh, the I just got the enclosure around S40. Yeah, the Atom Stack's working really well for me. Like I said, it took me a little while to get the rubber wheels, the roller wheels broken in and properly adjusted. Now that I've got that done, I've done 8 or 10 stove covers with it since I did the adjustments. No issues. I've did a bunch of cutouts. I don't remember how many. But yeah, it's working great. Haven't had any problems. I had started getting to where I was having a few disconnects with the V35, and so far I haven't had that issue with the new Atom Stack. So that's good. I don't know if I've got a cable going bad or what, but we'll see. If it continues with this machine, then I'll know.
Yeah. I
But
actually just got mine up and running. Well, I built it last week. Didn't get around to as much of testing, but I did. That's this kind of as Clack mentioned earlier when I sent him a picture. I rednecked an enclosure out of some foam so that I could actually start running some tests on it. And a little sneak preview. So this is some 1/4 inch poplar, and this is single pass, 100, 125, and 175 millimeters a minute. And I'd
did you
show you the
say
back, but I got
quarter
it
inch
taped.
popular?
This is well, yeah. Here, let me just double check. It's doo-doo. So it's 19 millimeters. Not that you could see that, but it's coming in at 0.75.
3/4.
Right.
Okay, I thought you
All right,
said
yeah.
this is some
Oh,
quarter
I
inch.
may have said a quarter. 3/4 inch, yeah. 3/4 inch poplar. Uh, so it's as far as cutting ability for some thicker material, pretty nice. I was actually at Menards this weekend looking at some other things, and they have on clearance. They have some edge glued acacia board panels that look to be about maybe 1/2 inch, and they were like marked down to like $15, and I think they were 4 feet by about 10 or 12 inches, and I thought, hey, for pre-glued panels, that might be good. I may run back there tomorrow and see if they still have them, because then I was thinking about this thing cutting on that thicker material. I could do something kind of cool with those acacia boards. So we'll see. We'll see what see if I find it when I'm back there. But yeah, the cutting ability, I was pretty happy with that. Being able to be up there. You know, a lot of these machines, I end up having to do multiple passes. But well, you know.
I guess that worked, didn't it? Did my drum roll come through?
Yes, it came through. It did.
I'm just making sure my buttons are working before I get carried away over here. Oh, that was funny.
But my so far my only complaint on this machine is that dang fan is constantly running. It's loud.
Don't you own a CNC? Like,
yes.
Is it quiet?
No. But it doesn't need to run the whole time.
Oh, hey, get rid of your amphitheater you built for it and get you an actual enclosure, and it won't be as loud. You've kind of built an amphitheater for it.
I need to build another bench so that I can put the enclosure for this on said bench. And so, yes, it's in the works. But
I see now. We're gonna have to get you a little thermal coupler so you can take yours apart and put it inside the unit to interrupt the fan.
No, it's a nice machine, but yeah, if that fan could be regulated so when it's not, you know, if it had just a little PID temp sensor or something there that it only turned on high when it needed to, it'd be really nice.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could be trendsetters and start we could go get us a couple of little thermal couplers or whatever and put in there to where it'll clip it on and off. See, my luck though, those things would go bad and then there you'd be no fan.
Right. Yeah.
So
you want it to fail on.
I kind of understand why they're putting it to making it stay on all the time. Is one, because they know people aren't going to clean the machines probably like they need to be, and two, you would notice if the fan wasn't running because it's always running. So that might prevent from overheating it if it quit. So, but yeah, it really doesn't bother me now. When I open the enclosure, it gets it's you can hear it, but the noise doesn't really bother me.
So really, I mean, a lot of the time I just have some noise canceling headphones on with maybe some music, podcast, or I'm watching YouTube videos, or at least listening to YouTube videos while I'm in the shop, and that tends to help. Yeah, I have a set of those, but the charge port broke on mine, so I gotta buy a new one. Those ISO tunes are nice.
Oh yeah, they are very nice. They are very nice. Now you can take the battery out and maybe you could
Yeah.
I think you could actually run AAA's in here.
Yeah, I need to find that. But I don't know.
Get you some rechargeable AAA's.
They're so well built. I'm not sure I could crack the thing open because I thought about just trying to get in there and resolder it, but
Hey, I spent most of the day wearing these because I've been cutting CNC stuff, and I'm working on doing I want to redo the area right behind my monitors and stuff and kind of dress it up a little bit so it doesn't look quite as typical. And so I've been cutting these guys out all day. Those are actually just little pieces of the leftovers from stove covers. I've got a pile of them out there in the kiln that I need to get rid of, and so I've started cutting them up, and I can actually cut 4 of those little pieces out of the scraps from my stove covers, and so I've got about 100 of those things left in the kiln. But I think that is going to be enough to do what I got to do. I'm wanting to do the tabletop and then just go all the way to the wall and then go up the wall too. But I want to do the tabletop different color than the wall. I'm going to work in some orange, some white, some black. Even thought about doing some like red stain, white stain, blue stain, just whatever. Just going to mix them up. So,
do I have it in here? Yeah, hold on a second.
But yeah, Vince, Jeremy, that's the ISO tunes. Like I said, I found out about them on YouTube watching videos, and I was like, you know what? Those would be handy when I'm sawmilling I used to wear like LG Tone earbuds, but the problem with that is if you're working with somebody and they, yelling at you or something like that, if they see a nail sticking out of the log or whatever, you can't hear them. So with the ISO tunes, when I'm up there on the motor end of the mill, I can listen to my music, but I can still carry on conversations as long as the mill's not revved up high enough, to drown them out or whatever. So I like them. I wear them cutting grass. I wear them when I'm bush hogging. I wear them at the mill. So
So I don't know if you've ever used this stuff, but instead of a stain, it's if I can get it to read, it's a dye. And so like this one's actually bright red, and then I've got a green, and then a coffee. I sometimes find them to be a little bit better at if you're trying to preserve the grain of the wood or the figure of the wood. These will often add the color and sometimes get a little more brilliant than your typical stains. So
yeah, the one I've got is hang on, I'll show you. So it does a really good job from what I've seen. I bought a couple of small things of it, and me and Klein were working on a flag that he was doing for a customer, and it worked really well on the wood that he had. So I went back and bought a couple of bigger things of it. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do the red, white, and blue, or the black and white, or black and orange, or what. Probably I'll end up going with the stains because it dries much faster than that orange paint does. So I don't want to overdo it with the orange.
well, and that's what I like about this is really you actually just you thin it down with water, and then it soaks in, and it really dries really quickly, and then you can go over it with most finishes. So
Yeah.
just if people are looking for something where they're not wanting to paint, but stain might not be the thing for you, you look at these water-based dyes for wood. I think I got these at Woodcraft.
Yeah, a friend of mine here in town sells some kind of chalk paint type stuff that's really similar. It's more like water, but it actually does give it color.
Hmm.
Brian Klein's actually already got a CNC in his house, but he has a low selection of bits. He's got the 4040 at his shop right now. He had the 3030. Then when I got the 6050, he swapped over to the 4040. But he doesn't have a flattening bit. He actually tried cutting his project out on the CNC, and he has not yet mastered V-carve. And apparently he had tried to call me, but I was up on the ladder and didn't answer him because I was running that pipe yesterday. But he had called me and said he wanted to run it through the planer because he doesn't have a planer at his house because he's working in his basement. He doesn't have a big yard or anything to do a whole lot with his shavings, and so he was just going to bring it over here and run it through the planer. But because it was pine and it was so thin, it had some really sharp points on it. I told him if you shove that into that planer, it's probably going to come out the other side in pieces. And so we wound up just setting it up and using flattening bit to flatten it out and get everything even for him. So it worked out. It worked out really well for him. He was happy because he didn't want to have to redo it. He wound up cutting it with a laser. He cut that with that 3/4 pine with the LM3 extended. So he said it took 11 passes. So, and he had already got it pretty much to the point where he was going to sand everything and stain it. And then he realized when he put them together that one of them was like 3 millimeters thicker than the other, and so. But we got it fixed. We got it working. I just flipped it upside down and went to the back of it and run the flattening bit across all of it at one time and got it just like it needed to be. And believe it or not, I hadn't even trimmed that machine, and it done a really good job considering. I was afraid it was was going to have to sand it like vigorously, but we didn't. So good deal.
Hmm. Nice.
But Klein before he goes to goes to bed every night. He says a prayer that my Shapeco gets delivered the next day because right now he is dying to test drive that one for a little while. But I've told him he's got to pass the test before he can take it home with him, so he's trying to learn V-carve.
Pass a test. What's the
Yeah,
test? Maybe we can't say.
No, I can't tell you what the test is,
Okay.
but he's gonna have
All
to
right.
he's gonna have to be able to design a file, send it to it, and all that to before
Is
It's
it
kind of like
is it
a driver's test,
is
but for
it is
CNCs.
it open book or So, well,
But
here's a question from ME. He has X-Tool S1 with a 4-inch AC Infinity inline fan to exhaust fumes. Did either of us remove the OEM fan when using an inline fan? Thanks, Mark. You put your fan like way down the line, right? Kind of like as a booster. Yeah. So
and
I
I was going to say too. I was watching LMR Rich's live earlier, and I was thinking to myself, if he had him an inline fan at the end, he wouldn't
yeah
have had that back feeding issue that he had because he would have had suction on the backside.
yeah
But yeah, especially if you're going to be running multiple machines like that, I think it's a good idea. But
yeah
anything over about 10 or 15 feet, it doesn't hurt to have a fan at the end of the run.
Well, even I don't know if you caught it. Valley Forge was on there, and he was talking about his setup. He actually has his blower motor outside his shop, so it's sucking. Because for him, it was the noise. He likes a quiet shop. But yeah, I agree. Put it as far as close to the exit as possible, so it's sucking the air through the pipe instead of pushing it. And I've printed an adapter to go from the stock box to the 4-inch pipe, but I haven't removed the actual OEM fan yet. I do plan to. It's just I wasn't sure how much I was going to run it in my basement shop versus out here. And out here, I might do something similar to Clack, is have it kind of boosted. So, but it sounds from what I saw, it's fairly simple. You just want to also make sure you go into the software and disable the option, disable a fan in the software. Otherwise, it's going to throw errors on you. But definitely worth doing, because if you have it running, it can actually slow down and choke your 4-inch, your bigger fan. B, if you don't have it running, it's still an impediment to move that air out. So either way, you're losing efficiency most likely by keeping it in there and having that short run. But
Yeah, like I said,
we'll see.
it really depends on your setup as far as your hose and stuff too. I mean, it's sometimes smaller fans perform as well as the bigger ones. Sometimes you got to have a bigger one. So it's the way I can tell is if I'm engraving and it starts getting really smoky inside the enclosure, I need more airflow. Whether that's a bigger fan or whatever, you need more airflow. So I can't stand to look over at my machine that looked like a Cheech and Chong rerun. So
It usually means I didn't turn the fan on.
yeah.
But
Hello, IG Creates. I don't know if that's good night as in hello or good night as in you're going to bed, but either way, welcome. Yeah, Vince, I think Stumpy may have been the one that turned me on to the ISO tunes. It was an older set that he had, but when I went on Amazon, I just went ahead and upgraded.
so I also have this set, the earbuds with the squishy form-fitting foam in them. These are actually the first
Yeah.
one I got. Carla got these for me for a Christmas present, and I like them, but their Bluetooth connectivity hasn't been as good as others. Actually, this is, I think, my second pair. My first pair was really bad. These have been okay, but I do like them. I like the Isotunes gear. They sound good. They do. I think there's something like a 25 or 29 decibel reduction rating. And yeah, the
Yeah.
other set that has the broken, I don't know if you can see that, but the charge port, it's going to be fuzzy. It's pushed in. It's not there. So anyway, that was me being a little heavy handed with it, trying to charge it one day. And
That's that
so
Sasquatch strength is what that is.
yeah, but no, they're good stuff. So
Yeah, Michael, I'm gonna be honest with you. Speed Tools, the bits that I've been running are mostly Speed Tool bits because I can't until I get to where I'm confident I'm not going to be cutting any metal or clamps or anything else with the machine. I felt like it was best to go with kind of a mid grade instead of the high end bits. But so far, I've had one little accident when I was using screws to hold everything down. I cut the head off a screw with one of them. But so far, I haven't had any metal situations lately. So,
yeah, I've run a few speed tools. I really do like the Jenny bits from Cadence Manufacturing. He's out of Arizona. He's recently purchased all the tooling to do it himself. So I mean, they're quality bits. He supports them. I mean, he's replaced them when sometimes it's even been user error. That's not, it's not a requirement. But it's nice supporting the smaller businesses that are going to do that for you on occasion. And he's been growing his line. I just recently got his new bowl bit, and so I need to get that out here and get that into the 150 and the Genmitsu and crank out some trays and such.
Yeah, I just
There's your
got
rain
this.
again.
Yeah, I just got me a bowl bit the other day. I've got what looks like a bowl bit in one of my regular router kits, but I wasn't sure it was exactly the same thing, so I went ahead and ordered one.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, Brian, Klein does phone a friend a lot. Like he'll come over here, and be like, "Hey, I need to borrow this, I need to borrow that," which I don't mind. Like I said, we've been friends for 20ish years. We've worked together off and on for 20ish years, so and he is really enjoying it too. So that's always fun. The ISO tunes have a way to work with face shields. I haven't seen that unless you got the earbuds like what you have, Steve. Then you could. So if you were using,
Ye-
like a lot of guys that do turning wear the like full shields, and then for chainsaws and stuff like that they wear the full shields. The earbud ones that you have, I know you can with those. Uh,
Yeah, those are very much out of the way, and I like them too. Wearing prescription glasses, anytime you get any of these noise canceling rubbery suction mount whatever that it pushes in on them, and these are very comfortable. But what I notice is after a few hours of them pushing in on my eyeglasses there, they can really start hurting there, and that's where I like these because they're not they're not interfering with my eyeglasses. But
yeah.
I did drop a link to the Cadence Manufacturing if anyone wants to look at his bits out there. And so no affiliate there. Just I like him. He's a great guy, and I've had good luck with him. So someone had asked how long those isotunes last, and I don't know because usually
Mm.
it's at least one shop session for me. So I would say at least 6+ hours, if not longer.
I want to say I usually go like I'll go 2 or 3 grass cuttings without charging them. So and it takes me about 4 hours to cut my grass.
Oh,
So
wow.
and that's not continually. So the battery gets to cool down, all that kind of stuff. But I, I'm pretty sure I've spent some 6 hour days up at the mill and didn't have to charge them. But now I will like if I'm wearing them and like say I go in the house to get something to eat, take a lunch break or whatever. Sometimes I will plug them up just to be sure that they get me through the day
Yeah.
because ain't nothing
Yeah.
worse than being 30 minutes from
Yeah.
getting through with the grass and all of a sudden because they still work as hearing protection, but you don't
Yeah.
have the awareness and you can't hear music. So,
Right.
but
Yep.
I have had to charge them up during lunch breaks or whatever just because. Uh, how many? Here's the
So,
question.
oh, okay. How many computers do you guys have in your shop running your lasers? I have, I, it depends. I do have, so I have one in my basement workshop that's a desktop that I can run machines from. Uh, and then I have my laptop, which I run some out here, but I also have another desktop. So I have it set up on 3 of them. I generally, it's more often that I'm running the laser on something and one of the CNC machines on something rather than 2 lasers. So I don't find myself running multiple lasers at the same time too often. If that's the case, I either just open a new instance of Lightburn, or if I happen to have one of those other computers nearby, like if I take my laptop downstairs, I could run 2. And I've done that in the past when maybe I'm running a longer coin carve on the com marker fiber, and then I'll be doing something else on one of the diodes and such. But uh, that being said, I work in IT. I tend to have access to surplus computers from time to time when they come up for sale or recycling. So it's and Lightburn, if you're just running it as a controller, really doesn't need a lot of power. Um, so you don't need a huge powerful computer for that. But when you get into some of the graphics manipulation and doing a lot of editing and such, that's where it's nice to have. But
Well, the most instances of Lightburn I've ever ran that I can remember on one computer, which is this computer right here that I'm using now. I had 4 instances of Lightburn running, doing jobs, and I was testing a machine on the table all at the same time. So 5 Lightburn is probably the max. Now I have done like 3 Lightburn and Creative Space, or 3 Lightburn Creative Space while designing in VCarve. But I've only got the one machine. This computer runs all my lasers for me. I've got USB hubs right there beside the Rolly. I've got a powered hub there. I've got another powered hub over here and another powered hub over there. And everything comes back to this machine. The only thing that has its own computer is the CNC. It's on its own machine over there, and it's a little Dell little mini PC basically. I got a refurb off of Amazon for like $128 with a Windows 10 license, and it's doing a really good job. All I'm using it for really is right now I'm running Candle on it. I've got Shapeco's Cinder as well as Shapeco's design software on it. But I do most of my designing on VCarve on this machine just because this is where I sit. I've got a comfortable chair here. Over there I've got a Bluetooth keyboard. So this is where I spend most of my time designing.
So Megan, hello from Pennsylvania. She has glass subway tile, would like to engrave it. It's clear, would painting it black work. She has a We Create vision. Any help would be great. Thank you. Different glass is going to react differently. So it's going to take a little testing to see how it's going to do. But yes, if it's clear, you want to put a binder on there, such as paint. You can also use some of the other sprays that, like, we've got Surmark, and there you go. There you go. Get Surmark and OhmTech spray and Brilliance marking spray. Those can also work. And then if you get your settings just right, you can actually get the black fused from like Surmark to the glass as well. But definitely going to need that. So what do these tests run on for you?
Don't make me lie. I want to say I did this one. I want to say I did this one on the P20. I've got another one of these tiles over there.
So it's a 20 watt, similar to the We Create.
Because I've had this one. I've had this one for a while. What I had looked at doing is Brandy was talking about she wanted to do a backsplash in the house. So I had thought if I used this tile, I could like customize. You know what I mean? We could I could put scriptures on there, or I could put sayings or whatever. And then after I got them engraved, then we could actually put them in the backsplash. I thought that'd be kind of cool. So I played around with these. And I've got all the way from frosted, which is kind of hard to see. Where's my flashlight? I've got all the way from frosted over to black. You can see that's just more or less frosted there. That's kind of black, and then down here it's black. But this stuff actually came, I guess it's primered or whatever. And I didn't do anything to it. All I did was wiped it down with some Windex just to make sure it didn't have any oil or anything on there. Pulled the sticker off that was right here and put it in the machine. So, but yeah, it's got a bit of a frosting. This end is a lot darker, but this end right here almost looks like those shower doors. As far as the way when you look through it, it's kind of like a shower door or something. You can see through it, but you're not going to see any fine detail or anything.
Just diffused really well.
Why is my picture freezing?
It's all that rain you're getting. It's leaking into your wire.
I hope not. Well, I do got another one of those over there. I never did test. I picked up like 2 of them, but they were kind of pricey for a piece of glass tile.
But a little bit of chatter about Millmage out there. It sounds like Hobo with Wood had a guest on there to give a preview of it. So that might be something to check out. I missed that.
Yeah, I watched most of it.
But definitely something I'm looking forward to at least checking out.
Yeah, well, I say I watched it. I listened to most of it because I was in the shop
Yeah,
working and I had them playing through the ISOs.
right.
Most of the time, that's what I do. I don't watch a lot of them. I listen.
Yep, that happens with me too. Especially if I've even done that sometimes. You know, if I run out of podcasts on a road trip, I'll fire up someone's YouTube channel and just kind of listen to it. Listen to the Bluetooth on the radio. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, Brian said his shower door is crystal clear, in case you ever needed to know that.
Did not need to know that. But so now, since we've been chattering about isotunes, yours are the isotunes link aware, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they should be a different color. They'll be this lime color. They've
Yeah.
got the orange
Mine are
ones are the
the
older ones, and then these are
well.
the newer ones.
These are actually V1, not even the Link 2.0. So I think I'm due for an upgrade and
Oh yeah.
get those checked out. But so, well, what else? You said you've been doing a bunch on your CNC.
Well, mostly
What else
just
has been
using
going on?
mostly just using up some scrap. Let me see if I can get this picture to pull up here, and I'll show. Hang on, let me pull my picture up. I gotta find it. Okay, yeah, here it is. If I can see that stack right there.
Yep.
That's inside my kiln, and those are the like leftover pieces from years of building stove covers. Those are pieces that were too small to make a stove cover, but I didn't want to throw them away. So I've got that stack in my kiln in there, and as you can see, it's a substantial amount of wood. That's
Mm-hmm.
3/4 inch panels. So I
Is that a
decided I
real
wanted to kind
3/4
of
inch?
it's very close.
It's not like my 1/4 inch is a
No, it's
3/4
not
inch.
like your It's, yeah, yeah. Those are legit 3/4 inch, give or take.
Yeah.
But so, I've been trying to figure out what am I going to make with these things. Well, I've made like the dog waterer. I've made some shelves. I've got 2 or 3 CNC files that make like corner shelves and bathroom shelves and all that, and I just can't use them all up. So I was wanting to do something to kind of spruce up my Clack Shack command here, make it look a little bit better. And I was like, you know what? I got an idea. And so that is what I came up with. And it's basically like a little honeycomb pattern, but I take one of those planks out of the kiln and I cut 4 of those little pieces out of it. And then my plan is to take and put a piece of like plywood or something on the wall and then glue those guys after I've stained them or painted them or whatever to the plywood to kind of make it's going to serve as a noise barrier too, so that when it's, coming a downpour, maybe I won't get as much noise through the wall. So, but yeah, it's just something I wanted to do with some of the scrap to get rid of it. And I've been running the bejesus out the CNC over there because it's been running pretty much off and on all day. I had to empty the dust collection bag today, and obviously that thing's working because when I dumped it out, it was slapped full of some really fine shavings and stuff. So that has to be helping, but it doesn't help with them sanding. I got to get me a better sander that doesn't spew so much dust into my shop because I had to go around with the shop vac and vacuum everything before we went live.
This is your random orbit, or what?
Yeah, the random orbit, the DeWalt.
Okay.
I thought about getting the DeWalt dust catcher and trying to put it on there or whatever. I think when I do build my other shop that I'm wanting to get, I am dead set that I'm gonna build myself a sanding table. I'm just
downdraft
yeah,
sanding
I
table?
have I have almost convinced myself that I need a sanding table. Because it is ridiculous how much dust gets on stuff. Just one day, me and Brandy cleaned up in here yesterday, and then today it looked like it never happened.
Well, and yeah, so this was, I don't know, sometime during the pandemic. I did invest in a pretty nice sander, along with a quality. They actually call it a dust extractor and not a shop vac, but Yeah, because breathing in that stuff is just horrible for you, right? So, and the other thing though, let me grab some of this quick.
Yeah, what I'm planning on doing, guys, is I'm going to build me probably a 4 foot by 4 foot, and of course that's one reason why I'm getting a 4 foot by 4 foot CNC. That way I can go ahead and make all the necessary ports and all that on it myself, and probably just use something similar to what I've got here, but have it to where it can, instead of trying to collect the dust, maybe I can like scrub it really good through a couple of filters and and extract it outside the building or something. I don't know, but there's got to be a better solution to this dust situation.
So this is what I picked up. It's the Mercaderos sander. It's a 5-inch random orbit, and then they have this mesh sandpaper. I mean, you can kind of see through it.
Oh no,
there,
that's
right?
cool. Yeah.
And then that with the right dust collection on here, with active dust collection through the shop vac or the dust collector, that has made a world of difference on it. And so it's not perfect. You still get a little bit, but I don't have near as much just fine dust floating around in here. So, but yeah, it's this is not cheap though. But it was well worth it. Partially also as I've tried a lot of the palm sanders and comfort after a while. If you're sanding like a whole tabletop or whatnot, that just gets tiring and such. So yeah, this is one of those comfort and health investments I made.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like I said, I've run my, I've got the wind dust filtration system or whatever over here, and I go through filters like you wouldn't believe, and I leave that thing running pretty much all day and all night. Yeah, mine runs constantly unless we're live. I cut it off just to keep the noise down. But yeah, I've seen so many things when I do finally retire and get around to building my own shop. I have found so many things that I'm going to do. Like I want to build it into the shop as far as like airlines, you know, chip collection, exhaust for lasers, all that. It's either going to break me or it's going to be really cool. I don't know which. I may just be broke with a half-built shop, but I
Well,
want to fix it up right.
you got to pace yourself. But yeah, there's a lot of those creature comforts that you can add into the shop. And I mean, a sander is something you use on almost every project, right? So it's worth getting. I mean, it's for some people the DeWalt's hooked up to a dust collector as well. They work well. I have one. It's just not as comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I shopped around and spent a little money on this one, and yeah, I use it all the time, and you cry once and then you enjoy it the rest of your life. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I said, the DeWalt does a decent job, but I catch myself having to go clean that little container out like every 2 or 3,
yeah.
Maybe like every 2 hours, if that, because I'm not sanding for 2 hours. I'm doing the different things, but it's like every 2 hours I'm outside beating the dust out of it, hitting it with an air hose, blowing all the dust out, and then put it back on. And I was like, there's got to be a little better way. So I'm gonna work on that in the future. That's gonna be some of my next things that I'm gonna try to upgrade once I recover from this CNC purchase.
Well, then the next upgrade for this or others is my friend Chris over at A Glimpse Inside. He actually makes a mount to hold this upside down, and then you can take small parts by hand and sand on them very easily with that. So, a little plug for him. But he made a pretty nice little jig for that, and some of those things, like I say, they just take your equipment and make the jobs a little bit easier. They're well worth the time to get them set up.
Oh yeah. Well, since I've put this CNC on the wind set up over there, it's helped, but it just ain't stomped it out all the way, all together yet. But it is definitely a big help because I can run the CNC for a couple of days and it's not that bad. But then when I start sanding, it's just it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Brian's asking if you're going to buy a drum sander next.
I don't got room for that. I'm trying to build me a table for all my junk that's in the middle right here. Which I'll be honest with you, I haven't used the thing much since I've got the CNC. But my router table, my table saw, which I need a bigger table saw, but I don't know where I'd put it right now. I think that's going to be one of those things I have to wait until I get a shop big enough to house a bigger table saw. But I do have plans to take that DeWalt job site once I get my 4 foot by 4 foot CNC. I'm going to rebuild that table right there, and I'm going to recess it into the tabletop once I have a CNC big enough that I can go in there, mark out where I need it CNC, slide the plywood up into the machine, cut the hole out, and then I'll take and put the top on the table and then slide the table saw up through it. Now that I can do that, or well, whenever the machine gets here, I'll be able to do that. But I'm going to do that with it. I'm going to do that with my Bosch router table. I'm going to incorporate it into the 4 foot table. So hopefully it's going to be a 4 foot by 8 foot table. And because mine's got the key to where you can lower the router through the top. And so I'm going to go ahead and basically incorporate it into the table as well. Even to the point I'm going to try to put the track through there so I can use guides and stuff like that with it. But it's going to be a job. The planer, I'm going to try to put it on the second level of the table to where I can have like a pass through against the edge of the table. But I'm going to have to put me like a little trap door in the top of the table so that when I get time to rotate the blade or change the blades, I can open that door, raise it up, and reach through to do that without having to unbolt it and remove it. So it's going to be the table build is going to be a booger. But that's why I went ahead and ordered my CNC, because I can't build that table until I get it, because that's kind of instrumental in me being able to make this thing work the way I want it to. So,
yeah, so my last table saw had a router in the wing, and that was really nice. And I thought about doing that in my saw stop, but ended up just getting a separate Rockler standalone table. But everything in my shop's on wheels. I can move them around, tuck them to the side. But with my planer, I actually have it on one of those. They're actually meant for a chop saw, the kind of the mobile cart that folds up and has wings and everything.
That's what my chop saw is on.
So I actually got rid of my compound miter saw. I don't use it very often because I have the cabinet size table saw. I've got my track saw. I never used it that much. But I put my planer on that folding cart, which is nice because if I'm doing a really messy job and don't want to deal with all the chips, I can just wheel it outside and let them kind of blow free in the wind until my neighbors complain. But it also compacts down, so it doesn't take up as much space. It's a little frustrating when I just I need to run a board through, it. So it's a trade-off, but it allows me to kind of get it out of the way. I've seen similar things to your idea with kind of the work table with the different tools and trying to keep it. Some people do like the flip top sections and the dedicated tool on one end and such, but that's a good way to do it. Help keep things somewhat organized, but in their place. But all takes time and a little engineering.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of time, which I haven't had a whole lot of lately.
Yeah.
I've gotten a little behind past few months, and I'm still struggling to try to catch back up. Brian said hashtag Steve needs a mini split for review.
So the funny thing about that is I actually got I told you I was having trouble getting one of the places to call me back this summer.
Yeah.
About they were just supposed to do a phone consult with me. Well, I got this long text message from them this week, just on Friday, saying they're offering a slow season special on your heating and cooling system. And I'm kind of like, well, there's no snow on the ground right now. It actually could be installed, but that would cause me some extra work. And I won't use the word, but I was working on a really painful financial process this week.
Yes.
I probably have to take care of that and rebuild, replenish the account after paying that bill here. But yeah, it's definitely on my list. Hopefully before it gets really hot, this hot and humid this summer. So hopefully this spring I can get that done.
Yeah. AGT said that hashtag Dave gets all the cool toys. Yeah, but unfortunately, I wasn't sure I would like them, and it was a pretty good bit of money, especially with the transition lenses. So, but I've had video glasses for a while. We used to wear them on the entry team when we did like entries on search warrants and stuff like that. We had glasses and goggles that recorded video, and so I liked that perspective of being able to see it, like not necessarily through the eyes of the user, but close. And so when I saw those glasses came out, I was like, oh, I need those. And I didn't have any good sunglasses. All I have is my, checkout line at the Tractor Supply glasses that I wear for sunglasses, the DeWalt glasses or whatever. And so I was like, you know what? Haven't bought a set of shades in a while. Because I used to occasionally, when I worked patrol all the time, I would wear, Oakleys or something like that on patrol, because if you break them, it's, which they're really, really tough. So it never really broke too many pair unless they got run over.
Get something stylish like these.
Do they got the name of the machine written on them?
No, they don't even have the rating on there. So typical.
But yeah, I like the video that it does. I think it's going to be pretty cool to be able to throw some little short clips together and make shorts and just like little peeks into the day-to-day stuff. I will be like say this summer when I'm building or spring here in another month or so when I'm rebuilding my chicken pen, because that thing is terrible. I'm gonna try to do a video, but it's gonna be like 60-second clip, fast forwarded, blah blah blah. And I think it'll be kind of cool to do that. So y'all let me know if I get too carried away with it. But
so
I
do you
like
have
my gadgets?
Do you have like a GoPro or another action camera, kind of like that? Mm-hmm. So what you should do is just set that up on time lapse with like a battery pack to let it run forever, and then just have your glasses on and just take your clips from both of those.
Yeah, that's what I usually do. I've got matter of fact, some of my sawmill videos that's what I do. I just put the GoPro on a tripod, hook a battery back up to it, and just let it go. Because my GoPro it's an older one, so the battery dies kind of quick. I need to reinvest in a newer one, but I'm looking at the DJI was it Cube or whatever, little bitty DJI camera with a magnetic basis. Because I've got the DJI Pocket, which it'll do time lapse as well, and it's 4K. So, and I can actually set it on active track, so it'll track me and snap pictures or whatever.
Sure.
But I'm gonna try to do some of that stuff when I get outside this summer.
So Richie's asking, is it possible to attach a camera to the X-Tool enclosure? If so, what camera do you recommend? How would it be mounted? If you're talking about the semi-fabric, it's a semi-rigid kind of Velcroed together enclosure. I have one, and it's two problems with it. Is that it's not really very static. It's not tied to the machine very well, so your camera is not necessarily going to be in the same position. So you'd have to have something that mounted on the frame and then held it in there. Secondly, it's really not that tall, so it'd be really tough to get one in there. And then also you'd have to add some lighting in there. So unfortunately, I don't have any really good recommendations for that with that enclosure.
Yeah, I've never seen the enclosure, but from what you've told me and from what I've seen in the videos, it would be a challenge. And if you did get one in there to work, you would definitely have some, like you said, some accuracy issues with the consistency. That just doesn't sound like it'd be a really good option as far as putting it on that.
Yeah, I mean the other thing would be is I don't think the lid opens up enough, but you could mount it on externally and just open the lid, do your camera stuff. But then again, you'd have to make sure that was mounted to like a tabletop that's referenced to your laser, so it doesn't get out of alignment. Because that's the biggest thing you'll fight on those cameras is anytime it gets bumped, it's going to need to be realigned. So,
yeah. Knott said he had his D1 Pro do some crazy 1 centimeter vertical drop on the third pass, cutting one of my jigs. Yes, not going to be the file. I'll tell you that. Because there has been thousands of those files cut, and I've never heard of anybody having that problem. I would say with the D1, make sure your cable's not snagging nothing. Because that was the biggest problem I ever had out of my D1 was the way that they did their cable management. That cable or that mesh stuff that they use would catch on the corner of the machine occasionally. And if it does that, it could cause it to lose a few steps on the next pass. That was that was my biggest complaint that I ever had with a D1. That's why I went through. I don't know if y'all saw the videos, but I actually did my own cable management and put screws and cable holders and stuff on my machine. Was because I messed up a couple of pretty expensive little jobs that I had to redo because that mesh was catching. Like when it comes all the way to the back, that mesh was catching on the corner of the gantry when it would go back, and it would just snatch it maybe like 5 millimeters, and it would cause it to the second pass to be off or whatever. What do you think, Steve? What's your thoughts?
Well, the only other thing I was thinking is the D1 Pro has kind of that spring-loaded lever on the side for the screw. So you can actually pull it out and twist it without engaging the screw. So if that is too loose to where you tighten it down and it's kind of holding it snug, but it might not be as tight as it should be, you want to pull that thing out while, take it tight, then pull it out, twist it a little bit so that you can make sure that it's really tightening down properly. Because if it's kind of bottoming out on the rail there, it might not be really snugging up enough. And over time, it's one of my issues with these.
Oh, he said vertical drop. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
I was thinking this way.
If it is those dovetail things with the screw in the side, over time that does kind of chew into that dovetail edge, and it can kind of cause burrs or even loose spots on it. So I would take a look at that and make sure that that's smooth and that your screw is tightening up firmly, but not like so bad that it's really digging into it. So
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't catch on to the word vertical. I see what you, because I was like, what's Steve talking about? And then I saw vertical. I was thinking he meant on the y-axis. So that's why I went where I went. Terminology got me.
More of a comment from Verl. Hello from North Dakota, I assume. I was talking with Dimitri about the inlay setting in live, and he mentioned that Rolly was working on a new laser that works similar to a CNC router. Found that interesting. Yeah, well, the diode lasers running the GRBL stuff is actually, GRBL was originally for CNC routers and such, so they then adapted it for laser control as well. So I'm not surprised. What I would love to see, and I think, what was it, Niji did this and a few others, where the laser actually zeroes on the bed, and then you can have adjustable Z height based off of the distance you need to program in. If you could have that flexibility, then yeah, you start adding in more capabilities of being able to better control the height, and or if you have the right software and mapping tools, you could then do a 3D engrave similar to what we're seeing in some of the other devices. So love to see what might be coming out. Lasermatic Rolly, they have a really nice machine from what I've been told. Everybody I talk to loves them. So I think they would. I'm glad to see them working on it, because I think they'll do a really good job with it.
All right. Michael's asking, how many lasers are you guys running in your shops? And do you mean how many do you have set up and ready to go, or how many do you run on a daily basis? Because that's a whole nother number. Right now, I could fire up, without having to swap an exhaust port, I could fire up 4 machines and not have to swap around any exhaust. 5 if you count the fiber, because I typically don't exhaust it. I just use that little filter thing. So technically I could run 5 without having to run an exhaust line anywhere. I am set up to run, I can run 6, because I've got another 20-foot section of hose that I can run to the cat door since I added this one. But this hose here, as you can see, I've got some slack back there, so I can actually unhook that from the Lasermatic and use it on the testing table over there or anywhere else. I've got the S1 sitting on the back side of the ladder there that's on a cart that's all set up and ready to go. All it needs is exhaust added to it. And so, yeah, I can fire up right now and run. I could run 4 lasers right now without having to connect any kind of exhaust or anything. So,
typically I'm running generally 1, maybe 2 at a time. It's more often that I'm running a CNC machine as well as the laser, and then possibly, you know, I got to be careful because I only have so many circuits out here. And if I run too many machines at once, so like I don't necessarily want to run my CNC laser and turn on my table saw with the big dust collector. That would probably cause some problems. Um, but it's also kind of it gets to the limit where, I mean, I'm not doing like major work. I might just be like trimming down. Like when I was making my model airplane stand kits, I'd have the CNC running a file. I might have the laser engraving things, and I might just be trimming boards on the table saw. So um, I try not to get too, there's one thing, like if you're set up, you have multiple machines running one job, you're kind of just, you get a pattern and a flow to it. You know when to expect it, but I try not to get too distracted from any one of them because things do happen. Whether it's the laser getting paused or I've had CNC router. I actually had an interesting issue where the dust collection was causing enough static that it would cause the controller to stop moving, and even my Mach 3 would pause, and it would just be like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'd have to pause everything, start down, and then restart the job at that point. So things like that could be bad. If your router stops and the bit's just spinning in the wood, eventually it's probably going to cause a friction fire. So I try not to get too distracted, although you get used to the sounds that are normal, and then all of a sudden you're like, that doesn't sound right. I don't, I guess I'm saying I don't advocate being distracted, but we all do it to a point. Just, make sure you have controls in place to not cause, be aware and be able to take care of issues that come up. So for me, it's usually a max of 2 machines at one time.
Yeah, Luis is asking, do you weld? You weld any over there at your shop?
Poorly. It's something I'd like to do more of. But it's the random thing. I don't do it often enough to consider myself a proficient artistic. I'm not going to be welding up something that's got some certain structural specs. It's going to be, yep, that's on there, and it's globbed on like a banshee with a glue gun, and
Yeah.
it works, but
Well,
it's not necessarily pretty.
I grew up in a garage. Like my playpen was actually a crate for a 350 rebuilt 350 engine when I was a baby. So I've grew up around welding, soldering, brazing my entire life. So I've actually got one of my dad's old toolboxes that he built. He used to work for a company, Bush Hog, that actually makes Bush Hog brand Bush Hogs. And I've got a toolbox that he made when he worked at Continental Eagle, which was Bush Hog before it became Bush Hog. And that's where all my welding stuff is. And it's over there on the other side of that ladder. It's a big roll around metal cart. I do have a little 120 wire welder that I use because most everything that I do around here, if I break something on the tractor, or if something on the lawnmower, or if I just want to weld a bracket together, make a tool, whatever. But I've got my cutting torch and oxygen acetylene tanks and everything's over there by the door. Because typically, if I'm going to be doing that, I do that outside, and I've got like 20-foot hoses on my gauges and everything. So I take that and run it outside to do it. But most of the time, to be honest with you, in the past couple of years, I bought a different tractor. I've got a newer tractor, so I haven't had to weld anything lately. But the last 3 or 4 times I've rolled my welder out, it was for friends, because they either broke the tail wheel off their bush hog on a Sunday and couldn't get nobody to fix it, was trying to finish their green fields or something like that, and they'd call me and be like, "Hey, if I bring it over there, can you stick this back on for me?" And then, like, I think about 2 weeks ago, a buddy of mine was getting ready to take his camper somewhere and had a weld break on part of his hitch mechanism on his flatbed. And so we had to re-weld it, grind it out. We re-weld it, reinforce it, and all that good stuff. So most of the welding that I do is, it's going to be like probably 1/4 inch plate generally, or thinner. I don't do anything really, really heavy if I can help it, because the little 120 wire welder that I got, you have to really stack it in there, even on 1/4 inch plate. But it'll do it. I built my log trailer, my log arch and everything on my log trailer, with that welder. So it does a really good job because I haven't broken that yet.
Yeah, it'd be this is more of a would be fun to play with. I don't necessarily have a business plan per se how I would use it, but getting some of those smaller plasma tables, be able to cut things out, and then obviously weld them together. Maybe for doing like table
Yeah.
bases or things like that. Um, but yeah, it's part of it in here is it's speaking to the sawdust we were talking about earlier. A metal shop and welding with a wood
Yeah.
shop and sawdust.
Yeah. That's
That's a
why.
that's a that's a dangerous mix.
That's why I do most of it out on the porch now.
Yeah.
Early on, before I got into all the woodworking, I welded. I built my heater I used to have in here. I built it sitting right here in the middle of the slab. But now I'm scared to have an open flame on a torch or a welder inside here because I'm afraid I'll have like a big flower fire. Uh, but uh, but yeah, like I said, growing up where I grow up, you learn how to weld, you learn how to be your own mechanic, you learn how to do your own plumbing, your own electrical, you learn how to do basic framing and building stuff, first aid. I mean, you name it, you learn it because you're you're pretty much self sufficient. When I was growing up, if let's say our washing machine messed up, we didn't have the money to call somebody in to come fix a washing machine. You either fixed it or you got your wash drum out and you went to washing your clothes in a drum
Hmm.
in a bucket or whatever. Uh, my dad did not believe in calling anybody. When I was like 8 or 10 years old, putting shingles on houses, and I mean we did everything. At one point in my life, I've done I think most anything you could think of. Uh, Plumbing, I can remember as a kid, when the septic tank messed up, I was the one that had to go in there with the bucket to clean it out. I mean, it's living in the country and living, I guess you could say lower middle class. As a kid, you learn how to do a lot of things. We
Hmm.
had a well one time. The well got silt built up in the bottom of the well. Water was dirty. I can remember being lowered down into the bottom of the well and having to fill a bucket up with dirt, and then my dad would pull it back to the top. So, I mean, it's a wonder I made it to 48 years old. Uh, but yeah, I've learned a little bit of everything along the way.
Yeah. No, I hear you on that, and uh, I definitely try to fix things myself whenever possible, and it's getting more and more frustrating trying to be able to source parts and such. I actually had we have a gas dryer, and there was just a solenoid on the valve that had gone bad, and I was trying to either get the whole valve assembly or even just that solenoid and such. And I was talking to some of the local places saying, "Hey, can I buy this part from you or whatnot?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you can't replace just that." I'm like, "Yeah, you can. It's very easy to do that." And so they wouldn't, and I ended up going online and buying not just the whole valve but just the solenoid, put it on there. It was good. The dryer worked after that. I mean, I've torn things apart like that a number of times. But
Yeah.
it's also good to know your limits too. Like in this shop, I built everything with some help, but I didn't do the concrete. I hired that out. It's just it was too much, and it was easier to have that done by a crew. But
Yeah, I know it's hard to
yeah.
believe, but I built this by myself. No, this was, oh my gosh, my video is froze again. I got to figure out. I'm going to have to end up replacing this computer. I just cleaned it out the other day, so I know the dust didn't get in it. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like I said, it's a little different. I was actually grown before I can remember. I mean, I think I was grown before I realized that not all eggs are orange. The yolks on eggs, not all of them are orange. That some of them are
Mm.
yellow. Because we pretty much always ate eggs off somebody's yard. So when first time I saw an egg and it had yellow in it, yolk. I'm like, what's wrong with that egg? Was that a sick chicken or what? But
So what
but
what
yeah,
most people got used to, you thought was weird.
yeah.
But
Da, 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 da.
so Norbert's been asking this. Do we have an opinion of RL lasers, their CO2 machines, looking at their J750 machine, decent cost, great work area, nice price, and light burn compatible? I'll be honest, uh, I haven't seen or heard much of them. But I mean, in looking at their site and their machine, it looks to be better than just your typical rebadged Chinese built machine. It looks like they have personalization and customization to their device that isn't just like every single other one. They have a lot of the nice things in there, looking like a nice ammeter. They've got a camera built in the lid and such. So I don't know what the price is on it right now. And like I say, I have no working experience, but just kind of glancing at their page, um, it looks decent. It looks like a lot of the things. They've got the solenoid for the air, is a moisture trap on the back. I mean, a lot of the things that I would be doing to upgrade one of these kind of generic um, Chinese lasers
Well,
like mine.
well, I can tell you this. Up until a week or so ago, I had never seen one of the Monport, the bigger Monports, the 60 watt with the. Now he didn't have the built-in chiller. That was the only thing that I probably would have went for if I'd have been him. But I went and helped a buddy of mine get one going, and I was pretty impressed with the Monport as far as the lift bed, the automatic focusing, and the air assist and everything. I was it was pretty awesome. And when he told me he paid $2,500 for it, I was like, "Do what?" Because it was a 28 by 20 work area with automatic Z and all this now, and it was light burn compatible. And so I was like, "Hmm." But his is the big chest type, so you'd have to pull it in through a garage door or a 4 foot wide door because it's not coming through a residential door.
Well, depending on how those are, because mine was the same way. It came in a big crate. It was a semi pulled up in front of my house and dropped it off the lift gate. And but the top actually disconnects from the rolling base on mine. So if
Hmm.
I did want to bring it downstairs for some reason, and I considered that early on, um, but I could, because then I can tip it on end, and then I could get it through your typical. Um, I think you need a 36-inch door, because I think it might be 32 or 33 inches in that way. But I don't know about the mom port. It might be that way, but yeah, that is an issue to consider. Is some of those that you're not going to get it through your typical door.
Yeah. If it's a 90 watt for 4,300, that's not a bad price. Like I said, but I've never seen one. I'm limited when it comes to the CO2s. I'm pretty well versed on
It,
diodes these days.
the other thing with some of these, and I'm not sure that if they have a uh, someone that imports them into your country. But here in the U.S., you can deal with directly with these Chinese companies and import one. But then you got to work. You're going to have to. The actual import process has to happen, and you got to work with a broker, and you got to get it through customs and all that. And then so the shipping can start adding on quite a bit when you pay all those, you know, duties and taxes and someone to go pick it up at the port and actually deliver it to you. So keep that in mind and ask them how they handle that, or if that's something you got to worry about as well.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe one day if I get enough room, I can get me a sit down CO2. But for now, I'm gonna have to stick with the desktop versions so I have enough room. Uh, Jeff said he built his own 24 by 32 shot with a loft. Yeah, I didn't. When I built this one, I didn't really. I mean, I sketched it out on a pad. That's literally how I did it. And it doesn't have a loft per se, but it does have kind of a crawl space attic because you have to crawl when you get up there. But it's decent for like storing some stuff. And the cats like it up there because they can get away from all the tools and stuff like that and take a nap. But
It's your shop bunk beds.
well, the cats actually do have bunk beds up there that I built.
Yeah, yeah.
They got a bunk bed that's made with old pillows as the cushions. That's where they sleep.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Got to take care of the cats.
Yep. All right. Well, it's been a kind of a slow night tonight. I guess the Super Bowl's hurt us a little more than normal, or either we've just become obnoxious to people. I'm not sure which.
The sports scene event is having an effect.
Yeah. But
That's okay.
yeah, yeah. There's two of them over there eating now. When it rains, you see a lot more cats in my videos because they don't like getting
I,
wet.
s- I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jack, I'm kind of like you. I think mine was a little bit more, and then yeah, I had to pay for a chiller, and I upgraded the fan, and I ended up, I when I originally started on this, I was looking at the K40s, and then I realized how much upgrading I'd have to do. Well, then I got the bigger, nicer one, and kind of the same story. I ended up adding an ammeter panel and the working on the auto air things, swapping out air pumps, exhaust fans, putting an actual chiller on it. There's a lot of well, and an actual 60-watt tube and not the 50-watt one that they sold me with the 60-watt power supply and call it a 60-watt laser. You know, um, it was, but it was cheap at the time. Mine was a little over 2,000 delivered, and it's done me well, but it's also gotten a bit long in the tooth, and I don't use it as much anymore because I just don't. I've got the work area between the P2 and the diodes, and I haven't run into things I can't do with it. But
Yeah.
not to say
Well,
they're bad, but
that's me now between the X40, the longer, the Lasermatic, and the P2 and the S1 and the fiber. I just don't run into anything.
and the
Well, I mean that's it depends on when I bring a project home. I'll look at it. Matter of fact, I didn't do a video of it, but I got two more of those coins. The one that I messed up one of them the other day and had to erase it. I got the guy that had taken those to my buddy at the trophy shop. Picked those up. He liked them, so he went home and found two more and brought them back. And so I had to do two more of those last week, uh, and replicate what I did on the other ones. But when I have something like that, I've got my fibers on a little cart. I just roll it around here, plug it into the power strip right here on the table, and knock it out. So it just when I come home, whatever project I have, I just kind of look at it and go, okay, which machine is going to do the best job at this, and make it the easiest on me.
Mhm.
Because sometimes the P2 wins, sometimes the Lasermatic wins, sometimes it's the X40. Of course, if it's really big, it's got to be the X40 because that's the biggest machine I've got until the Shapeco 5 Pro gets here. And if Shapeco's watching, y'all please drop me an email. Let me know where we're at. Gosh, the the suspense is killing me. Uh, I'm ready for my machine to get here. It said 15 days, so I am resisting emailing them until 15 days gets here.
well, uh, um, yeah, it's nice having it's nice having options and tools. My friend asked me today if he could come over and I could help him cross cut some cherry boards for him. He was working on a shelf, and the typical idea would have been to use the table saw because he had this weird angle that he needed for it and such. But after looking at it and going, I'm like, nope, this is a job for the track saw. It'll be much easier. I can lay. He already had his line marked out. I'm like, I can lay the track right on that, run the blade right across there, and be done, rather than trying to make sure I get the angle exactly right on the table saw. So, um, but that being said, you can often you make do with what you've got, and you find ways. So if I had to use my table saw or if I had to use my circular saw and you could get a straight edge and get it at the right angle and clamp down and run it along there as well. So yeah, it's nice having the machines the options of machines to be able to do it when you need to. Um, but it's sometimes, I mean, I bought a what is it? It's a mortiser. It's a jet mortiser. So it can drill square holes basically, for furniture building, and I've used it twice. And it was one of these Craigslist deals. I'm like, oh, I've kind of wanted one of those. I should get it. And then I got it. I played around with it. Went, nah, I don't need. It's too much effort for me to set it up every random time I need to use it. So that one probably needs to go back on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, it is the computer, and it does a really good job. But I'm gonna be honest with you, the machine was built back in I want to say 2012, and processors have came a long way since 2012. And because of the motherboard that's in it, I can't upgrade the processor uh, to the newer one. So I'm planning on building me another machine. I'm just going to build it from scratch. I'm going to get my buddy Tim over at the trophy shop to order me a couple of 4x8 sheets of acrylic. And I'm going to manufacture myself an acrylic box that's going to have built-in dust filters and stuff like that so that I can basically take filters like like a window unit air conditioner would use, slide them down into the acrylic and be able to filter the air that's going in and the enclosure for the computer. That's my plan. But I've got to pick out a motherboard, and I've got to get the acrylic and design the box to hold it because I want it to be completely see through everything but the actual computer parts. So once I do that, then I promise you I won't have any computer problems because I plan on I plan on building it over time. What I really need to do with this one is I really need to go ahead and take and break the seal on the processor. Go ahead and put some more heat uh, paste on there and clean the fins real good on the processor as well as the video card. But I just haven't got around to doing that yet because I'm afraid I'm going to mess something up. But it's getting to be that time because I'm pretty sure the dust has choked the life out of it. Even though I blow it out every Friday afternoon when I get in from work, I take the case apart and I blow it out with compressed air with the machine powered off. But there's only so much you can do with compressed air after a year or two of breathing in all this dust. But when I build my new enclosure, though, I won't have the dust problem because I'll just change the filter on my computer, which is going to be weird when I say I'm going to change the filter on my computer. But that's my plan. I want an acrylic box that you can see through, where I can put some cool LEDs in there. I'm also going to put the Clack Shack logo. I'm going to frost it into the acrylic and just build it out. Buddy of mine runs the STEM program here, and I donated him a few diode lasers. And I've even thought about letting the trade school, the STEM program, build the computer for me, just because they've already worked out all the bugs, but they build gaming PCs that way, and he's already got the files and everything, and it looks neat. The only thing that they didn't have that I need is the filtration. So I gotta work on doing that, but I've been trying to get my CNC because I can't do any of these great projects that I have. I can't do them until I get my big CNC. So just waiting on Shapeoko. Or I guess I should say, what's the company's name? I
Carbide.
just ordered Carbide. Yeah, I just say I just spent a bunch of money with them. I can't remember the name of the company.
Sent money to random place, hoping they'll send me something.
But I think that would be a really cool thing.
Yeah, well, hopefully you get that soon, get it up and running, and have a lot of fun with it. So, sounds like you got a lot of projects lined up for it.
Yeah, Mike understands. Yeah, the Fred that I have is, like I said, it's from I think 2012 or 2013. I kept it long enough to EOL it with the Secret Service. So when I got off the task force, I was like, "Hey, do y'all want my equipment?" They're like, "No, we don't need that. That's an antique." Yeah, Mike, if you've got an extra Tolino laying around, you can let me have one of those because those things are beast. And the Tolino is actually where I got the idea for my enclosure because the Secret Service, the ones that they give out now, it's a big Tolino Fred, and it's got an acrylic panel on the side of it with lights and everything in it. And it's got the NCFI, the National Computer Forensics Institute logo, this logo here. It's got that logo burned into the side of it with a laser. And so when the first one of those I saw, I was like, my next machine will look like that. But yeah, it's a beast. The new Tolinos are. This one, like I said, this one was a beast in its day. It's to the point now to where I would rather have me a newer built gaming PC, and put me a NAS inside the house so that I don't have the RAID out here exposed to all this dust and stuff. So and I've already got the NAS up inside the house. So I just need to get the PC built.
So I don't know if you want to answer this question or not. It's been asked before and such, but Lee's asking, evening everyone, for our hosts, if you had to buy one diode laser, if you had to buy one diode laser, which one would you buy and why? Seeing that, you just talked about having a variety of machines to use the right tool for the right job, which one, if you had to have just one, what would do the bulk of your work for you?
It would be the laser that would be the most suitable for whatever profitable project that you do on a regular basis. That's the way I pick my machines. It's kind of like anything else. Uh, like Steve said, if you're not using it daily, do you really need a 4x4 cast iron table saw? So you have to buy the tool for what you're going to be able to use it to make money with. If I had to get rid of every machine in here but one, I would keep the X40. And that's solely because I can do my stove covers and every smaller project in the X40. If I got rid of the X40, that would knock me out of doing my stove covers, which is going to knock me out of about $600, $700 a month, which is going to hurt. So I would have to keep the Atom Stack, the X40, because that's where my money comes from. So that's what you got to look at. It's if your projects are earrings or small little things that are less than 12 inches, you have a lot more variety of which machines you can use for that and which machines you can pick. But with me, I have to have the ability to take a 22 and a half by 30 and a half piece of wood and stick it into a machine in order to keep making money with it. So you've got to look at the products that you plan on of making, and then look at a machine that is within that machine's capabilities. And I mean, if you can get away with a $300 laser doing whatever it is you're doing, then hey, that's overhead, and income. Though you have to balance those. I mean, you can't go buy a $30,000 machine if you're only going to make $1,000 worth of stuff a year. So you have to balance that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mine's going to be similar, just due to the fact that I mean, what I originally got into lasers for was my model airplane hobby, and I tend to work with at minimum 24-inch sheets of balsa, if not 36. So right now, I don't necessarily have a diode laser that can take advantage of the 36-inch sheets, but I can cut them down to about 32 if I need to and get that length for some of the larger stuff. But having that size is going to be one of the killer things for me. And I also like the orientation of this. Same thing with the Niji. I like having that kind of wide orientation. You can get the extensions for some other lasers, but then they're deep, which isn't a problem. You just got to make that mental rotation in your head. So yeah, it's going to need to be something that's got that width to it. It doesn't need to. I don't want one of those, like, what was it, the
850 by 850.
yeah, I don't. That would be kind of annoying because I'm not going to use both directions that wide. I honestly, if I could have something that's like 16 by 37, it'd probably be just about fine for as far as working area for me. But yeah, so there are some nicer machines out there as far as features. And like you mentioned, if you're working with smaller stuff, there's definitely some things you consider. But for me, that size is going to trump it.
Yeah, because my problem is I've got to be able to throw these things into a laser. So
yeah,
you can't throw this into just any old laser. I can't put it into S1. Can't put it into P2. I could probably set the longer on top of it and do them like I used to in the early days, but that would cause me a lot more setup time. So that's what I look at. And like you said, I do think there's such a thing as too much laser as well. Because Adam Stack wanted me to take that 850 by 850, and I'm like, I'm not giving up another, 2 foot of my work area because that's what I would have to do. But I have even considered, like with this Adam Stack, there is a way. Looking at this machine, that I could extend this thing about 6 more inches. And add some extensions to the wiring harness to make it work, or either move the controller. There are ways that I could make it bigger, but luckily for me, it works for what I use. And so like I said, that's what you got to look at. What is it that you're going to be able to do to make money with? And if you're not trying to make money, then just what is it you're going to do to have fun with? But my hobbies, actually, after I bought my second laser, is when my lasers, I bought my first one and I did enough jobs within the first 3 or 4 months that I made my money back. I kept up with it on a spreadsheet. Once I made my money back from my original X1 or D1, then I ordered myself the D1 Pro, and then I made my money back using it. Now, I have been blessed since then and not had to buy as many machines. Uh, but it's it's all about how you can offset your cost of your machine and be able to make that back. My sawmill, my wife almost stroked when she found out I spent $5,000 on a sawmill. But it took me about a year selling lumber, cutting mantel pieces, breaking down wood for people, that I made my money back from my sawmill. And I kept up with a spreadsheet just showing, how much money I spent and then how much money I brought in. And I worked it until I got a zero balance on my spreadsheet. And that's when I bought the first laser and then the second laser. And so you got to consider that. I mean, you don't want to go all in and get the latest and greatest if you ain't got the work to keep it busy and get it to pay for itself. Unless you just got money to spend, and you just want a really nice laser, then by all means, make yourself happy.
Yeah, I mean, for some people, this is a hobby, and they're just looking to have fun with it. And but there again, it's going to be up to your toy budget there, and maybe you want to spend some money on supplies rather than the machine. So
Yeah, well, and that's where I'm at. My wife was just happy when it got to the point to where my saws and sandpaper and glue and stuff like that wasn't having to come out of the household budget, because I actually
mm,
had a little bit of money in my coffee can at the time that I could, grab some money and run down to the hardware store. And that's the reason that, she doesn't mess with me now, because I have my own bank accounts for the shack. I keep up with my books. I pay my own taxes, all that kind of stuff. So as long as I'm not taking money out of our normal household account, she really doesn't care. I manage my money out here to where I have extra to put in an air conditioner or buy a CNC or whatever. Now I still have to save, but it helps motivate me. That's like these stove covers. My wife, I was out here working on these stove covers, and she knows I've gotten burnt out on it because I've been doing it for like 2 years, and I do 5 or 6 at least every 2 weeks, if not more. And she knows it's so repetitive. I've kind of gotten burnt out on it. So she took a picture of the check that I got in the mail from the company and was like, "Okay, here's your motivation. Get to work on those
mhm.
stove covers." Because that's what it's all about. It's about me to be able to finance the CNC, because stove covers and cutting boards bought me a CNC. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
Michael
I
said his
hear you
wife
on that.
walked in. We need to be quiet.
I it can get difficult. I was kind of in that same spot with I was making those model airplane stands, that it was kind of the same thing over and over. And it was kind of like the bread and butter of the shop. And yeah, it paid for me to upgrade a lot of things. It paid for my laser, paid for my CNC machine, things like that. But after a while, it was just kind of the monotony and the same old thing. So that's where I kind of that was one of the blessings of the pandemic. It kind of forced me to rethink what I want to do. The Baltic birch plywood, I was getting kind of dried up for a while. Well, it's still available. It's available now, but it's like 3 times the cost. So I don't know where I'd be with that right now if I was still trying to do those. So it it's nice finding those things that people kind of, that it's your staple that brings money in, but it can also, it, it can create some boredom and a frustration. So you got to find that
Yeah.
motivation. And if that's a check, that's great. But if it's not working for you, you got to reevaluate. So
Oh yeah. Well, and like I said, I'm trying to retire, so I'm having to buy some time back with the state, and so any extra or any spillage that I have extra, I'm sending down there to try to get that bought back, so that when I actually get my 25 years in, I don't have to work 27 and a half. You know what I mean? So I'm working on that too. And then the business is helping me do that. So Mike's asking about marketing products, and he said he feels like he's doing something wrong. Mike, I don't know how long you've been doing it, man, but it unless you're just really, really lucky or really, really skilled, it takes a little while to get spun up. I started just with a Facebook page, sharing pictures of stuff and basically doing jobs. Not, I wouldn't say to the point where I was losing money, but I was just taking jobs and just making me a few dollars to buy materials with, just to get my name out there, just to be able to take pictures of stuff and show what I made. Uh, and it's tough. Klein's kind of my guinea pig now for some of the things that I tell you guys. And Klein started him a Facebook page, and he started putting things out there and just making random stuff, taking pictures, putting it on his Facebook page. And he's actually been busy this weekend trying to fill orders. But now he'll tell you he's been doing it for a little over a year now, and it's just now getting to where he stays busy on the weekends with a couple of orders or three. So it takes a while. What's your take on it, Steve? I mean, do you pay for marketing or what?
Yeah, you either need to find something that's unique that people will be looking for that not a lot of people do, or yeah, you got to hustle and you got to get, sometimes it's that ninth, 10th person that finally, bites and then brings in other customers and helps. It is a struggle at first, and that can be tough. So having the right mentality of I'm going to invest my time, I'm going to invest a little bit of money, and I'm going to learn. This is all about marketing, not so much of making a profit in your first, sometimes months to a year of being in business. So, and also what works in one area does not work in another. So it's great to get ideas off of people, through live streams like this, videos, Facebook groups and such, and try them, but fail quickly. If they're not doing well, move on to something else. And what one clientele values a lot and will pay you for, others go, no, I'll give you $5 for it. And you're like, well, it cost me 30 to make. So just, like you say, there's a lot of free options to get out there. The Facebook groups, local groups, if you've got them, whether they're crafting or sales or business organizations, try to get involved with those. Try to find some events that you can go to or places you can just give your product to and say, hey, I do this. Maybe there's something we can do, whether it's a business itself that, it's like a bar or a boutique kind of thing, or something that they would sell your product. So you're going to have to be willing to sell yourself a little bit before you can be busy making the products.
Oh yeah, and one more thing, when you go in and talk to people, I'll tell you this: people are going to buy from somebody they like, even if they don't really care for the product.
Mm-hmm.
But people can love the product, and if they don't like you, they're not going to buy from you. So that's one thing you got to remember too, is when you go in, you're going to get told no, you're going to get blowed off or whatever, but always try to go at it with a good attitude. Freebies are an easy way. Like if you have restaurants or, my biggest customer is a place that sells mobile homes, and I make every housewarming gift that they give every person they sell a mobile home to, and that's what keeps me in business. Then they go back 3 months after the people have moved in to check with them to make sure they have no complaints, and they give them a cutting board. And so that's where my money's going. And I've had two other companies that asked me to bring them on and start doing for them, and I couldn't do it. But I had a friend of mine that's a police officer up north of me, and I contacted him because I knew he had a CNC and a laser as well. And he watched the channel, and me and him talked about machines. And so I told him, I was like, hey, this place is trying to get me to do, stove covers for them. Won't you go make a couple and take up there and talk to him about it? And I sent him my schematics, how I did it, sent him Amazon links to even the same handles that I use. I sent him my designs. I think he came up with his own because they wanted something a little different. But he went in there, proposed it to him, and got the job. And now he's making stove covers and stuff just like I do. And there was another one that was in Georgia and another one that was in Florida that were also wanting me to make them for them. And I'm like, I can't ship a stove cover to Florida, and I can't make weekly trips to Florida. So, that's when I put it out on the Facebook page. Hey, anybody near this location, go to this dealership and talk to them because they're wanting work done. But realtors are another one. Photographers, of course. I do a lot of backdrops for photographers and stuff like that. Props for photographers. If they want something that looks antique, but they don't want to pay antique prices, they send me a picture of what they want, and I replicate it the best I can. And so photographers will keep you busy, especially around graduation. I make a lot of 32-inch names where it's a cursive name or a calligraphy name that's 32 inches long. And all I do is cut it out of Luan, spray it with some glitter gold, and they pay me like $25 for it.
Well, and Chris brings up a good point here. He was talking about he makes most of the stuff for darts clubs, gets heaps of word of mouth orders for their items. If you are so like for me, model airplanes, it's kind of my hobby, and people are willing to spend on their hobbies. And so if you can find something along that vein, whether it's a custom coaster or a certain jig type thing, maybe for gamers it's a dice tower or a dice box, things like that. They'll pay for that. Um, they'll pay for that unique stuff because they're already paying for their hobby, and they're used to spending money on that. So if you're into something like that, try to tap that as well. And like Clack said, start out with some freebies saying, hey, I made us this thing for whatever whatever your hobby is that your club you might be part of, and you'd be surprised how many people, hey, can you make another one for me, and me and me and
Yeah.
me. So
Well, I just donated 3 pieces to one of the largest fundraiser auctions in my county. And so when people were walking around looking at the different things that they could vote on, the pieces that I donated had a card set on there donated by the Clack Shack. And so when
mhm.
they walked by and looked at it, they might not have liked the one that was on the table because it might not have been what they wanted, but they're like, okay, that guy can make that. And so, like the following week, people are messaging me, "Hey, can you make me a cutting board like this? Can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do this?" Now, I'm to the point now to where I have overflow, so I send a lot of it to Klein. So Klein picks up a lot of those jobs. My buddy Tip, I had somebody wanting a butcher block black walnut cutting board this week. I don't have time to be throwing butcher block together for a one-off. If I was going to do 10 of them, okay, but I contact Tip and I set the job over to Tip, so he's going to be doing that one. But you just word of mouth will get you more customers than anything else. I don't pay for advertisement, never have. Well, unless you count all the schools that I donate to and have my name on the fence. Because I can't tell the kids no. I got the football team wanting me to, announce me in every quarter and at halftime. I got the baseball team. I didn't know it, but they put signs on the fence. The basketball team, apparently they have banners on the wall. I mean, who knew?
Mhm.
And did I mention we have 6 schools in this county? But Lee asked the questions. Says has an OhmTech 60 watt with a 20 by 28 dialed in, looking to add next gen Rolly. He said he hears the 16 by 24 bed and autofocus is coming in the next gen Rolly. Uh, I haven't heard all those details, but I do know from what I've been told that they are coming up with a bigger machine. I figure they're probably going to try to work the Z axis into it, and I hope they do a better job than some of these other companies. Uh, because a Z axis is a good thing when it works right, but I'd rather not have it if it doesn't work right. Because I've had several machines that had it, it didn't work right, and I hated it. So,
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on that? Have you heard? I mean, like I
I
said, I stay too busy to be catching all the
I
latest gossip.
unfortunately that's a connection I don't have. And so I try to pay attention to what everybody else is talking about and doing with them. But that's more information that I know. That size is getting there. Like I say, I always hate, like, if I need 24 inches of working area, I like having like a couple extra.
32.
Just well, just I mean, if you're engraving and you're using that full 24, but that's your working area, your laser is going to struggle with it because it likes having that overscan area and such. And also you might want to be having some room for a positioning jig of sorts. So I like having a little
Mm-hmm.
extra working area, but that 16 by 24 is a nice size to where at least it's getting there, and I could feasibly use it for a lot of the things I do because like I say, 24-inch sheets of balsa are typical, but I also do go bigger than that. But I'd love to see it, but I don't have any info or anything on that, so I'll just be waiting to see as well.
Yeah. Lee, it's basically it's this simple. Until I find a job or a need for the machine, I'm just going to keep running what I got. Anything that I do, I can do on that beast right there. I run 17 and a half by 37-inch Luan in that I cut from. And that's where the bulk of my money comes from. This is where I do the big names. This is where I do the stove covers. It has an automatic lift bed. It doesn't have a Power Z, but I have been looking at it. It could easily be upgraded to have one. But this machine, it makes me nothing but money, and it doesn't go all the way to the ground. I've got wood storage underneath it, and I like it and I enjoy it. And so, could I probably support a large CO2? Yeah, I mean, but I really don't have a need for it. The once in a lifetime time that I might need something bigger, I can just turn that job down and keep my money and keep my floor space. It's kind of like I tell people all the time because I have a F-150 pickup truck. They're like, why don't you go to F-250? I was like, what do I need the F-250 for? Well, the F-250 I pull twice as much weight as that 150. It's like, yeah, but the big heaviest thing I pull is like a, my box trailer, which is nothing for an F-150. So I don't see buying twice as much truck to have to keep up with to do that one time every 2 years that I actually pull my tractor to take it somewhere or something. But it's just a matter. It's a personal preference. Also, from a content creation standpoint, there's a lot more folks that would like to learn how to work something like this, as opposed to if I went and bought a $30,000 CO2 laser. Some of you guys would be like, I don't need to watch that video because I'm not going to be getting one of those anytime soon. So that's a lot of it too. Is I don't have a need for it. I seriously do not need it. I'm fixing to have a 4 foot by 4 foot CNC over there, and with the proper bit, I can do most anything on that machine that I might possibly need a bigger laser for. To the point of even putting a laser head on it. So I just don't see it. Yeah, Mike, I recognized who you were when you started talking about the Tolinos. I recognized you. But if you're in the area, come by for lunch one day.
So so the argument for a larger single CO2 machine would be if you are making a lot of an item and you can just put a big sheet of them in there, let it run, and crank out 20 of, like I used to make these glue caddies and I could run, two or three, I think it was about three kits at a time in a few different orders and have them done relatively quickly. But that's because I was trying to like prep 25 of them to have stocked in the store or take to events and things like that. When you're talking about customized products, you're probably not doing that as often. And so having some individual machines, you can run 2 or 3 diodes for the same working area and cost of some of those larger CO2s. So they have their place, but yeah, for where they've come and what you can do with them, they are a little bit easier for someone that doesn't have the space or the time to commit to a larger machine. And they do have their limitations, but they also have less maintenance to them. So,
Yeah. Well,
I
and
like
I go
having
for the
both,
whole.
but go ahead.
I go by the whole theory too. I mean, show me, because the way I've got my shop set up right now, I can run my X40, I can run the S1, I can run the P2, and I can run the longer B1 all at the same time. So like when May calls me and says, "Hey, I need 100 ink bandits or I need 100 ink dens," that's those times where y'all ask me about, how often do you run 4 machines? That's one of those times to where I will get me I'll go buy a truckload of like 20 sheets of Luon. I'll bring it back to the shop and I'll break it down. I'll have some 37-inch sheets for this machine. I'll have some 24s for the S1. I'll have some 24s for the P2, and then I'll have some 18 by 18s for the longer. And all I do is sit it here and put wood in, hit go, put wood in, hit go, put wood in, hit go, all the way around the room. And by the time I get those out, quality control them, package them, whatever I got to do, it's time to add more wood. So, but I only do those jobs maybe 4 times a year where I'm just slammed like that, where I'm, I got 100 units that I got to get out in a week. So, and like I said, it hasn't got to the point to where I feel like the benefit of having it would be worth the inconvenience of having to maintain it or having to give up space to house it for now.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe one day, if I had a 2,000 square foot shop, hi, I might go get one, stick it in the corner somewhere. That way, if I don't use it, it's not in my way as much. But I'm working on a 20 by 24. Floor space is a premium here, especially
Yeah.
especially when you start talking about all the machines I've got sitting around already.
Yeah, I mean, I've got my the work what the working area on this is 27 by 17 or ish on mine, and so it's pretty close. Well, actually, the X40 is wider than that, but it takes up a lot less space. I can get it out of the way easier. You know, when I'm not using this big CO2, it's like having a chest freezer sitting in my way constantly. Um,
Yeah,
if I'm not using it, and because the diodes have been so popular and easy to use, and coming up in power, it's been easy to just roll with those and then not worry about this one. So I don't know. I was talking with a friend of mine. I may make him a really good deal on collecting this from me. Because like I mentioned earlier, I need space to build another bench to put an enclosure for one of these larger ones on. And yeah, luckily I do have the P2, which for acrylic stuff I can still do. And it's honestly got almost as big working area as this other one, and it's a lot smaller. So yeah, you know,
yeah.
if you need it, you'll find a reason why you should buy it. But there are definitely other options, um, for 90% of the work.
AGT with aluminum, if it's anodized aluminum or some type of coating on the aluminum, like some of the old trophy, some of the metal and stuff that are used in trophy shops, and I happen to know this because I've actually been engraving some of it lately with my buddy up at the trophy shop. Uh, it's typically going to be like black anodized, and it's going to have either silver underlay or a gold underlay. And if that's the material that you're using, that stuff is designed specifically to be laser engraved. So all you're really doing is knocking the black off of it and exposing the silver or the gold underneath. And you can do that with even a 5 watt will do it. I mean, it won't do it as fast as say a 20 watt, but even a 5 watt laser will do anodized. It just takes a little longer.
Yep. So
But yeah, that's I've actually got some experience working in a trophy shop now. But you got to have that little machine to cut them square with because you can't cut it with a laser. Uh, but my buddy Tim, he's got that's what he does. He makes his living uh, making trophies and signs and stuff like that.
Jack's got a good point about it. No matter what machine you go with, one machine equals zero and two machines equal one. If you have one laser go down for any reason, and that's your only laser, well, your orders aren't going out and your customers aren't happy. I see that all too often in the various support groups for a lot of these dialed lasers where they're waiting on a part, and they've got a big
Yeah,
order, and I'm kind of like, well, if I'm in a business and I got a big order, I better be really comfortable, have spare parts, or have a backup machine, because you know
yeah,
your good business can turn bad really quickly by word of mouth, of not being able to pull through. So yeah.
yeah. Well, that's just like people. I've had people message me today. Hey, what do you do with those machines that are hanging on your wall? And I'm like, nothing, because the V35 over there is the backup for the X40 because I've used that V35 for the past year. It does a good job. It's just not a 40. So I've kind of taken it out of the rotation. It's hanging on the wall. All right. I've got my Algo laser 30 watt setting up there. The Algo laser is comparable as far as its capabilities and speed to this one, only it's a 20 instead of a 30. So it's a little lesser of a machine. I also have a Sculpt Fun S30 Ultra sitting over there, which is kind of my, let's say somebody brings me a table or something that I don't want to have to undo one of my machines from an enclosure, but I need a big work area. That little Sculpt Fun's got the camera that's built to the frame of the machine. So I can literally set that in the center of the table, and the camera, unless I've knocked it around, the camera is calibrated to the gantry of the machine. Boom, and I can engrave whatever. And of course, now if the CO2, if the X tool goes down, I've still got the old Monport M40, but I refuse to use it anymore. Now that I've used the X tool P2, I refuse to use the Monport M40. I'll just have to take it up to my buddy's Tim shop and run it on the Thunder up there at his shop, or over my other buddies and do it on the Monport, like legit Monport CO2.
And that's a good reason to either have good friends with them or kind of make connections with people in similar businesses, because they
Yeah.
might find a pinch where they need you to do some work, or you might, your machine's down. You're like, hey, can I come over and run this real quick? So,
Yeah.
whether it's friends or another business that you can kind of be friendly with to back up and support. It's good to make those connections, because you're going to
Oh
be
yeah.
in that spot at some point. So
Oh yeah, like I said, my buddy Tim, like the last two jobs I've done for him, he's like, "Hey, you hadn't sent me an invoice or anything." I was like, "No, because you got 4x8 sheets of acrylic propped up against the wall in there." So when I get to needing some acrylic, or if I need a tag for a trophy or something like that, I'll just come visit, and we'll work it out.
hmm
But and like I said, it's good to have those people. But he's contacted me before when his machine went down before he bought the new Thunder, and was like, "Hey, if this job, if I'm running up against a deadline, can you help me?" And of course, at the time, all I had was the Monport M40, and I tried it, and I'm like, "No, dude, I'm no help. You better order a machine." Because I couldn't do what he was doing with his machine. So, but now with the P2, I could do what he's doing with it. Uh, Maybe not as fast as he's doing it with a Thunder, but I can do it.
hmm
Dum, dum, dum,
So
dum.
Michael's saying, Steve, that's the first time I saw someone use a cooler for an enclosure. How does that work?
That's,
So,
it's wait a minute, hang on.
My mom
right.
always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know.
I don't know that I can move this too much. Let me see if I can turn my camera a little bit. But so this was an invention of necessity. It works poorly, but it kind of works. What this is actually some thin sheets of foam. It's actually called RC model foam, and I have boxes of this sitting around from when I used to run my business and kit airplanes. But I'm like, I keep it on hand because every so often I want to make something for myself. But I needed to be able to work with this, so I just took the panels and started just kind of tape. It's literally just taped together with some clear tape in a box, and then I have a blast gate in the back to attach my 4-inch hose, and it's pulling out most of it. And then I actually have a fan sitting over here. I don't know if you can see that over on this side, but there's a fan sitting on there to kind of make sure the air is blowing towards it. So. Because I'm trying to actually take video of what it's doing as well. I needed something to be able to kind of work with that laser while I'm still dragging my feet on building the bench and the enclosure for it to permanently sit in. So it doesn't work great, but it works better than none. If it was a little bit warmer up here, I'd open up the doors and just have a fan going. But while it was warm, and I did crack the window to get some air flowing through here, it's still a little chilly up here. So that's what that's all about. But that also means that I'll have some content out on the Adam Stack X40 Max here shortly. So
That is not an enclosure. That is a laser amphitheater. That's what that is. That's so that it broadcasts the sound this way, so you can hear it better.
yeah, well, it is doing a little bit of that too. So
Chris, I will have to say I was a little surprised with the Thunderbolt as far as the speed and everything of that Thunderbolt. Because when Buddy Tim got it in, he had never run Lightburn. He had always worked out of Corel Draw. So there was a bit of a learning curve for him as well as his employees when the machine showed up, and it was Lightburn. So I had to go up and help him get it set up, and we did some testing. I showed him how to do material testing and all that kind of stuff, and basically just played with it a little bit off and on a few times when he's had problems with jobs on it. But it's a really nice machine. The whole no chiller, like air cooled setup, is pretty nice. I don't know how well that would fare in my shop environment because I got so much dust. But the way it's built, the cabinet is easy to get to everything. The cleaning the lenses is really easy because they literally like magnetically hold themselves in place, and so you can just pop them out and then pop them back in, so forth. It's got like a little thumb screw just as an added security. Matter of fact, when he first got it, one of the mirrors had fell out and was in the bottom of the chassis. And when I first did my test burn, it did nothing. And I'm like, oh no, this is not good. But then when I opened it up to go in and check the alignment to put a piece of tape over the mirror, I'm like, well, where's the mirror? And then I looked down and I'm like, well, there it is. So we put it back in. But since he's got the machine, it runs really good. It's really, it's got the resolution. I'm gonna be honest with you that will is competitive towards my com marker fiber. Like you can do anodized aluminum, and the resolution of the images is really nice. Cutting ability, because it is still just a 30-watt CO2. It's not going to cut as fast as say the P2 does, but it has a really fine beam, and it does a good job. It has a really well thought out autofocus. I did like that because it's got like the little foot, kind of like 3D printers use. So it comes down, it hits the foot, and then it lifts back up, and that foot is well above the workspace, so it doesn't catch on anything. But I do like the way the machine's built. Now I will say this: I didn't realize that the price was kind of more. Did you say the other day it was a little bit more than the P2 for a lesser power output? So
It's pretty close, depending on the sale and what options you get with the P2. So yeah, it's also an RF tube instead of the water chilled CO2. So there's some differences there, but yeah.
But it's a good machine for what they do, because like I said, they mostly work on acrylic. They mostly cut like 3mm to 5mm acrylic. They engrave acrylic, they engrave anodized metals, and a lot of the laserable metals from what is it, JTL distributors or whatever. So everything that they do for the most part is geared towards those machines. And whenever he gets a job in that's not geared towards those machines, he calls me up and drops it off with my wife, and then she brings it home for me to work on. So, it's definitely a good machine from what I've seen as far as the build. I do think it would be easier to service and work on than say the P2, because the cabinets, when you open the cabinets, there's actually room for you to get your hands in there and move stuff around and so forth. So, and it has a really lightweight module, or I guess I shouldn't say a module because it's not really a module, but the last mirror is just really minimal. And it does have the I guess the built-in the tube laser pointer. So framing's a breeze. I like the machine. I just don't know if I just don't know if it would survive here in the shop. I don't know. It we'll see. I'm still haven't decided if the P2 is going to make it or not with all this dust. The M40 hung around for a while, so maybe it will.
Well, I think if you keep it closed most of the time, and you're not like running it, because it's got so many intake fans and whatnot, blows and things around. As long as it's not like hanging sawdust in the air, pulling that into the machine and getting in the areas, I think you'll probably be okay. But yeah, they have more mechanics and more mirrors and more things that can get mucked up from that it adds a little complexity to it. So
yeah. Yeah, Brian. Now that machine will run at 100%. That's one thing I did notice is none of the paperwork with it says anything about you can't run it over 100%. Now I don't know if they've got it throttled on the back end or whatever, but when I'm cutting, because he was trying to do some stuff the other day, I needed a jig, and of course he's never really used jig. They use Play-Doh a lot of times, but I took a little scrap of wood and cut a little jig out real quick and put it in the machine, showed him how to build the jig on it. And it cuts really well. It has a really small kerf, even for, like I said, a 30-watt. I think that helps it because it's not the same wattage. I think because of the beam size, it actually cuts better than, say, a 40-watt normal CO2 would, in my opinion.
yeah, there could be some. I mean, you can. The nice thing about the CO2 lasers is you can play around with mirrors and focal lenses to tweak your beam a little bit. Get a more clean beam through the mirrors, get better reflectivity, and then also have a tighter spot but a shorter focal distance, or a longer focal distance but a wider beam. But if you're cutting or needing fine detail, you do have a little bit of flexibility and option there. So that is one of the advantages of them.
Yeah, they bought the variable, like you can get the different lenses for the end. So they've got like 2 or 3 different lenses, but the one that came with the machine, I think, is probably just going to stay in there. I don't think they'll ever find a need for the other ones, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I had bought a few for mine, and I think I settled on the is it the 2-inch lens? I think that came originally with a 1.5, and that's the sweet spot that I found. Like it engraved well, it cut well. I didn't find a need to swap it out too often. So
Yeah. But anyway, it is 2 hours and 4 minutes, so that's been a while, and of course, it's the fun weekend is over. It's back to work tomorrow, so got to go in there and get cleaned up and get a little bit of this dust out of my hair and my beard and everywhere else because I got like sanding dust everywhere. But somebody said they need to try it on the long mill. I'm not sure. I guess he's talking about the 3D printer music. Didn't you
oh
like
yeah,
do
yeah.
Didn't you like do Jingle Bells or something one day on yours?
There was one. Yeah, I think it was when I got the Jamitsu. I had it. I think it was the Imperial Death March from Star Wars or something like that. So I'm sure it was something kind of geeky, but yeah, you can
Yeah.
get MIDI files and then have it converted into G code, and it'll play it on most machines with stepper motors. So
Yeah, I will say the 6050 is a lot more like you can hear the steppers. It sounds more robotic than any of the other machines that I've had. And there again, if someone would hurry up and ship me my big machine, I could test it out and see what it does. But I haven't gotten it yet. I'm gonna die of waiting on it. And I'm hoping that just I don't know how my delivery people are gonna do with that thing because it comes in. I've heard it comes in 3 different boxes, so hopefully the boxes only be around 100 pounds a piece. So we should.
well, you know how that's going to go is you're going to get 2 or 3 boxes one day and then have to wait.
Oh, you better hush. It wouldn't. I wouldn't get lucky and like get the 2 side rails,
Right?
and
Yeah.
then the gantry.
Yeah.
I would like
Yeah.
get the gantry, and one side, and then
Yep. Yeah. Not much you can do with it. Yep.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be as bad if you could get the 2 sides. You could go ahead and start putting it together. But it's kind of like when I went and bought my sawmill. I drove over to Georgia, and you back up in there with your trailer, and they bring their forklift out, and this sawmill is in a box that you're like, there's no way there's a sawmill in that box. And they set it on the trailer, and of course the trailer's like, and you're like, okay, maybe there is. And then when you get home, it's like an erector set, and you're putting pieces together. The next thing you know, wow, it's a 16-foot long sawmill. But it's probably going to be the same way. It's going to be it's the videos I've seen. It doesn't look too intimidating, but I'm a little OCD, and I've got to get a circuit put in. I've still got to put me a 30 amp circuit over there for my other stuff, and then I'm going to use the one that's already over there, which is a 15 or 20. I'm going to use it for the CNC, but I'm going to move everything else over to a 30. So I got to get that done this week, just in case. But anyway, guys, I've enjoyed it, and like I said, I'll let y'all know if it does show up. There will definitely be a live. It may be a Clack Vision live, but for the ones of you that don't know, if you don't have me on Facebook and you have a Facebook page, hang on, I forgot I plugged them up. If you don't have me on Facebook and you have a Facebook page, go over and follow the page because now that I have the Clack Vision glasses, I can go live and you can actually see, and you can go back and look at my channel. You can actually see what I see. And so the unboxing very well may be on the Clack Vision Ray-Ban Meta glasses. But unfortunately, until they do some upgrades, I either have to do 60-second like B-roll clips with them, or either I have to go live on just Facebook. I haven't figured out how to make them work with any of the other software yet. So if you don't have me on Facebook, go subscribe so you can see the Clack Vision. And that's what I've named it. And I'm sticking with it. It may be a little nerdy, but hey. Oh, I got some new shirts, and I've got a new vendor for my shirts. It's a local company. I've been waiting on them for about a year to be able to sell online. Good news is they're a lot cheaper than these little companies I've been using online. And I won't make any money off of them, but the ladies here in town would definitely appreciate the business because they do a lot of our big events in town. And I went to them last year to try to get some shirts made, but they didn't have the capability of taking online orders. So I will be in the next week or two swapping my shirt stuff over to this company where you can go to their website and order, pay directly or whatever. In the event that you want one of my new orange shirts.
Very cool. Very cool.
But anyway, I'll let you talk. I'm sorry. You can put these up.
No, I'm good. This is great seeing everybody here. Hope you enjoyed this over the sports scene event that's going on, and we'll be hopefully out in our shops doing some work. Otherwise, we'll see you back here next week, same time, same channels, and yeah, I hope everybody has a good week. So we'll see ya.